Pregame.com.
We have one of the biggest revenge spots of the entire college football season on Saturday night, ABC. This is Brad Powers of Pregame.com studios just off the Vegas Strip. We're talking Saturday night college football action. We have a good one in the Big Ten, arguably one of the biggest games of the day, Michigan at Penn State.
The total on this game is 45. Last year, Michigan went over that total by themselves. Who do you like in the total here?
Well, I'm going under this total. That's right. We're going under 45 between Michigan and Penn State. Let's talk about one of the team's defenses, and it's not the one you're going to be thinking of. Let's start it off with Penn State's defense, who often gets overlooked. Saquon Barkley, Heisman candidate, he's the favorite right now. The quarterback, Trace McSorley, one of the better quarterbacks in the country. But what have I told you? The #1 scoring defense in the country, if I gave you 5 guesses, you'd probably say Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. No, it's actually Penn State, only allowing 9 points per game. Offense grabs the headlines. The defense is one of the main reasons why Penn State's ranked #2 in the country right now in the AP poll.
I probably would have guessed Wisconsin because they don't play anyone at all. Hey, the book on Penn State was that offense is loaded, but that defense was supposed to be down from last year. What's driving them being so good?
Yeah, they lost several key starters from last year's team and then also had a couple guys get hurt in spring practice. So they did have legitimate question marks, particularly pass rush. Lost their 2 or 3 best pass rushers from last year, and it wasn't an overwhelmingly great Penn State defense to begin with. They've answered all the questions, and they've far exceeded expectations so far.
Let's talk side on this game. I know we disagree. So it's obviously the mother of all revenge spots for Penn State because they got lost by a zillion last year. But in that game, when they went to the Big House in Michigan, Michigan was laying 16. They won by 39. Now, Michigan is getting 10. I have a 26-point differential. Whenever I see that big of a swing, I have to tell you, I tend to fade that big of a line move. And let's forget about the 26-point swing. Let's talk about 5. +5 is the most points a Harbaugh team has ever gotten his 2 years at Michigan, and now they're getting 10. So they are going to feel disrespected, and they are going to have this game circled as well.
Hey, that ain't a bad handicap. You've kind of, swayed me just a little bit, but here's why I do like Penn State. Let's understand a little bit of the 26-point line move. Penn State was completely banged up into that game. That was probably a couple points in itself. They were completely depleted at linebacker when they were playing walk-ons. Also, it was an offense that hadn't catched fire yet. They had a brand-new offense coordinator. Really didn't catch fire until after that Michigan game where they became prolific as far as running Joe Moorhead's, the offense coordinator. And then, if you mentioned the revenge, but also, let's just talk home field advantage. This isn't your standard 3. This is at home, at night, with the revenge, in one of the biggest home games they've had in several years. This is more like a 4 or 5 point home field edge for Penn State.
And your power ratings have Penn State a good, more than a 5-point favorite on a neutral in this game, right?
Yeah, probably 6 or 7. So pure power ratings for me says Penn State should be laying doubles here, probably 11, 11.5.
Very good. Your second key handicap.
Second key handicap. Let's talk about what everyone's talking about as far as Michigan's defense. Even they were great last year. We had some concerns coming into the season. They only had 1 returning starter back, but somehow, some way, they're right back up there again. They are actually #1 in the country in total defense. And if you look at who they played so far, not great offenses, but give them credit. Every single one of their opponents they played so far, they've held them to season lows as far as yards go.
Yeah, and you could argue we're getting value on Michigan totals, starting with the very first game against Florida when Michigan quarterback Speets throws it to the wrong guy twice, and Florida gets 14 cheap points. So because of that, the final scores are misleading. It really, even though they only have 1 returning starter, it's an elite defensive system that's in place.
Absolutely, and it's more system than players. They've lost a lot of those players, but what remain the same is their defense coordinator, Don Brown. Not Doc Brown, Don Brown. And you go back to his days at Boston College 3 years ago where he led the #1 total defense in the country at Boston College. Comes over to Michigan last year. In 7 different defensive categories, Michigan was either #1 or #2 in the country. And now this year, #1 in yards per game allowed.
I got to tell you, I personally bet the correlated parlay. I played the +10 parlay to the under 45. Let's make your total official.
All right, let's do that. We're going under 45, Michigan and Penn State. On one hand, we have a Penn State defense that gets overlooked. The offense with Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley, they grab all the headlines. But did you know Penn State's defense, #1 in the country in scoring defense, only allowing 9 points per game. And on the other side, Michigan's defense, they were inexperienced coming into the season, yet still elite this year. They're #1 in the country in total defense, and they've held all 6 of their opponents to season lows as far as yards go. Add it all up, a very low-scoring, old-school Big Ten type of game. Under 45 is the pick. More videos at pregame.com.